Niles, Michigan, February 20th, 1987, 1:30 in the morning. A 911 call is made and answered. Terry Wood is on the line, frantic, aggressive, yelling at the dispatcher. He's just returned home from a night of bowling. He's telling them his wife, Roxanne, is dead.
Please, oh my God, my wife has been murdered. My wife has been murdered. I'm going to get some information from you. I'm going to get a car started, okay? No, 50 cars started. No, they are started. No. Don't scream into the phone because the phone distorts and I can't understand you that well, okay? You get a recording. No, I'm trying to get some information from you, okay? Yeah, right.
When police arrive, they find a nightmare. Roxanne Wood, just 30 years old, on the kitchen floor. She'd been sexually assaulted, her throat slashed. No sign of forced entry. The presumed murder weapon, a fillet knife, was missing from its drawer in the Woods' kitchen, and Terry Wood was covered in his wife's blood. The facts, as police first saw them, seemed to point to only one suspect. Within minutes, the focus of the investigation was Terry Wood. Why? Fact 1, the 911 call. Terry's behavior, the anger, the belligerence, it wasn't the typical shock of a grieving spouse. And that odd accusation about the dispatcher's motives and agenda. It was as if Terry was already trying to defend his innocence, and when brought in for questioning, he immediately asked for an attorney. Fact 2, the crime scene. Police noted that the timeline was incredibly tight. Roxanne returned home around 12:30 a.m., and her husband Terry claimed he didn't arrive until about 1:15 a.m. That left a window of roughly 45 minutes. For investigators, that was a very narrow span of time for a random stranger to have broken into the house, encountered Roxanne, committed a sexual assault and murder, and then vanished without a trace. The short window seemed much more consistent with the possibility of someone close to her being involved. And Terry mentioned slipping in Roxanne's blood, but the crime scene simply didn't indicate that happening. A kitchen knife taken from a drawer suggested the attacker didn't bring a weapon, but grabbed one inside the home. It wasn't logical for a killer to come unprepared, making it seem unplanned, a crime of passion. The lack of forced entry was also inconsistent. Fact 3, the motive. Detectives quickly uncovered marital strife, extramarital affairs by both Roxanne and Terry. To investigators, the lack of an outside suspect, the rage, the proximity of the weapon, it all screamed a domestic killing. And investigators knew that statistics showed that nearly half of women who were murdered were killed by a significant other. One investigator told Terry outright, "I believe you're the killer, and I will not rest until I put you away forever." The husband was their prime, their only suspect. But the police had a problem. All their evidence was circumstantial. They had no fingerprints, no eyewitness, and no confession. The DA wanted an open and shut case, and they didn't have it. Roxanne Wood was sexually assaulted. A biological sample was preserved. At the time, technology to process such a small trace didn't exist. For over a decade, the case went cold. Terry remained the likely suspect, living under a cloud of suspicion from police, the community, and even some family members. He was even referred to as Slash. Then, in 1999, technology advanced enough to upload the killer's profile to the National Criminal DNA Database. The results were clear, no match. But one crucial fact stood out. The DNA belonged to someone other than Terry Wood. Did that clear Terry? To police, the answer was no. They reasoned the husband could have killed her, and someone else could have been involved in the assault. The cloud of suspicion remained. The case file grew into a mountain of paperwork, some 3,500 pages of reports, interviews, and notes. Then, in 2020, a breakthrough partnership began. Western Michigan University's cold case program digitized every page, over 1,200 hours of work, turning a mountain of paper into a searchable file. Making progress, detectives then turned to Identifinders International, a forensic genealogy company. The company made it clear that the sample was almost gone. Just a gnat's eyebrow of DNA was left. Only about 3% of what's normally needed, but they would try. For 10 months, the team made no progress. Then, investigative genetic genealogist Gabriela Vargas took the file. She disagreed with the pessimism. She believed the case was extremely solvable. She uploaded the DNA profile to GEDmatch, an open-source DNA database. Her method was precise. Build a family tree backward through distant matches until the branches converged. Eventually, she found the common ancestors where the lines came together. A couple born around 1920. They had 3 sons. 2 could be ruled out. The third son had a chilling past of violent acts, sexual deviance, drugs, a lost life, and he was living only a few miles away in South Bend, Indiana. In 1979, he broke into a Gary, Indiana home and attacked a woman, trying to sexually assault her and stealing her purse. Days later, he was pulled over by police for a traffic violation. They found the woman's stolen credit cards sitting on his passenger seat. He was convicted of burglary and sexual assault, sentenced to 14 years, but he only served 7, and Roxanne Wood was murdered just 4 months after he walked out of prison. A violent predator, freshly released, roaming free, and within weeks, Roxanne was dead. Investigators put him under surveillance. They noted he was a smoker. The first chance came when he flicked a cigarette butt from his truck. A trooper grabbed it. When the results of that DNA comparison came back, it was a shock and a gut punch. It was not a match. All that genealogy research was flawed. Or was it? They went back and looked over the collection of the DNA. Surveillance showed a car had passed at the exact moment the butt hit the ground. In DNA work, chain of custody is everything. It seems the wrong butt was picked up. A negative only clears a man if you know the evidence is unquestionably his. That's why they didn't drop him. The failure made the second attempt critical. They surveilled him again. At a laundromat, an undercover trooper blended in by chain smoking nearby. This time, he kept eyes locked on the suspect's cigarette from his lips to the pavement. He grabbed it while it was still warm. The lab came back a perfect match to Roxanne's killer. His name? Patrick Wayne Gilham. In July 2021, investigators confronted Gilham. Shown photos of Roxanne, he denied knowing her. When told his DNA was at the scene, his body shook, his hands trembled. He gasped and said he needed to talk to his lawyer.
I gotta talk to my lawyer, man.
In February 2022, days before the 35th anniversary of the crime, Gilham was arrested. He pleaded no contest to second-degree murder. At age 67, he was sentenced to a minimum of 23 years in prison. He will be eligible for release in 2040 when he is 86 years old. The killer finally had a name, and for Terry Wood, the nightmare was finally lifted. After 35 years, the whispers, the suspicion, the label of slash were gone. For decades, the evidence seemed to point to the husband, but DNA told the truth. The real killer was a violent stranger hiding in plain sight.
I'm a monster, man. If I did that, that's a monster. That's a monster, man.
Terry Reynold Wood, affectionately known as Woody, age 67, passed away peacefully February 5, 2025. A few years earlier, in 2022, he was present in court for the killer's sentencing. May he rest in peace along with Roxanne. Was justice served? You be the judge. What is certain is that the true killer has been named, yet more proof that they live among us.